The Sleepers, Chapter 17, Summer Love. I'm not sure how the vixen worked her magic, but she called me that very night after our first encounter. "Hello?" I answered, unsuspecting. I was preparing for bed, holding to my schedule even when on leave. "Is this John?" she inquired, dismissing all pleasantries. "Yes. Is this Sam?" I asked, perplexed upon recognizing her sharp tone. "This is Samantha Carlyle," she scolded. "I'm respectfully calling to request your absence from all future engagements with Ray." Her tone mimicked a petition to the devil to cease and desist all temptation. It was ostentatious and ridiculous. I breathed quietly out of respect for this sensational woman. Her words were sharp and empty. Samantha continued, "Ray and I have a future together, a future without any room for his sleeper, his friend, his observer, or whatever you are. I know your type, and know there is no room for an intrusive third wheel. I may not be able to fire you, not yet anyway, but I can certainly protect us from your entanglement." I had spoken only a handful of words to this girl, and she was already threatened and defensive. I decided to gamble that I knew her as well as she knew me. I bet that Samantha exuded defiance but bled passion, that she needed someone stronger than herself, someone other than Ray. I challenged back, "If you feel so strongly, then come over and make your case in person." The phone went dead with her lack of response. She'd hung up. I had wagered wrong. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. The temptress knew my phone number and my house number. The latter was simple. It was no secret my family owned the governor's mansion. The phone number must have been swiped from Ray's account when he was distracted, an easy emotion in her presence. Thankfully, I'd answered the door rather than the butler. Something told me there was a chance it was her, and I'd postponed my sleep just in case. Samantha stared across her long nose unflinchingly. I returned the stare with a cocky smirk, unwilling to notice her figure and her new outfit for the evening. She lowered her nose and head as if gazing over imaginary glasses. I maintained my stare, but could feel my knees buckling with the weight of her demure. We spoke no words. To speak would be to acknowledge both my existence and our imminent treason. Instead, we kissed ferociously. We moved in simultaneously, sensing kindred disasters. I had not kissed like this ever, but carnality rarely requires practice. We kissed on the doorstep. We held locked lips in the hallway. We kissed as we moved to the backyard for added privacy. We kissed as if the world would end. We breathed only to survive the moment. All thought of Ray fled our minds. If he existed, it was only as a shadow, a fluttering nerve long atrophied. Ray disappeared the moment I challenged Sam to come over. He was light years away. The plan was light years away. If I had stopped to think, I might have exercised control and pulled away, but my mind shut down, and I was sucked into the same vacuum-controlling Ray. I was drowning in female essence, desperately trying to remember that I was with a killer. The intoxication of Chanel No. 5 destroyed inhibition. I fought futilely hard, trying to remember, trying to choose destiny over pleasure. This girl, this machine, aimed to either own me or destroy me. I couldn't determine which motive drove her, nor am I certain she knew, and I didn't care. The kissing clouded my discernment. I sunk deeper into her spell, relinquishing my freedom. My hand worked through her blonde waterfall as I matched her own action to hold me close. Only this moment mattered. Faintly remembering my purpose after a moment of eternity, I struggled hard to come back, convinced that neither possible motive from her warranted a relationship, nor a dangerous fling. Destruction or enslavement seemed like nefarious futures, but my struggles only invited more lust, a challenge to this siren. In the backyard, on the bench, the moment raged on, still without words. She purchased any lucid dream her heart desired, but sometimes real touch must matter. She was in control. I tried so hard that I finally gave up the struggle, stopped flailing, and sunk deeper and deeper until I hit the surface and died. Such was the force of Samantha. She meant to crush your spirit, to own you. There was little hope for me. There was no hope for Ray. The sound of a car entering the garage interrupted our moment. Startled by this sudden noise, we stopped kissing and resumed breathing. She peeled us apart and straightened her clothes, erasing impropriety with a swish of the hand. We did not restart our tryst on this first night. The car was my parents'. They made quick escape into the house, eager to retire for the night. We remained quiet and still, feeling like two adolescents hiding from prying eyes. After all shuffling noises stopped, we relaxed and finally looked at each other, eyes open. I could tell I wanted to like this girl. I wanted to be with her, having found an equal. We stared and then turned away, unable to bear the pressing silence, that awkward lull which blesses moments of passion. Neither of us chose to speak. I had no words, nor believed any were required. We knew our sin. We knew the danger. Did it need vocalizing? Samantha left through the side gate with a simple goodbye. "See you tomorrow, Sam," I asserted, trying to conceal my optimism. She turned and nodded as she strode through the backyard gate. Sam returned every night for the remaining weeks of overlapping vacation. She lived a normal girlfriend life with Ray during the day. She was mine, or I was hers, at night. I never slept for Ray during these short summer breaks, giving me a few precious hours to do as I pleased and dream freely of this beauty. We never spoke more than a few trite pleasantries during these engagements. The words shared were mostly in mocking tones. Our unspoken language spoke plenty for our connection. On the last day before Ray and I returned to school, she knocked on the front door, unafraid of our relationship. Our butler answered the door and called me down. "What's going on?" I asked before thinking as I stopped in my tracks. Since the first night we had been so quiet, sneaking at most times to the mansion's fenced-off garden. Yet here stood Samantha, dressed to kill. She wore her hair for the first time in curls. Her makeup was even more perfect than normal, if that was even possible, and she wore a strapless blue satin dress that would go better at a wedding than our backyard ritual. "We are going dancing," she answered, unconcerned. She certainly kept me on my toes, but we couldn't go out. You know we can't go anywhere, right? First off, do not lecture me on our activities. Second of all, of course I know. She then pulled out a small speaker from her gold purse and held it up to me in answer. "Put on a tux, dismiss the help, and we'll find a room in this quaint place for a dance." She at last smiled, and she made sweet eye contact. Those eyes that could kill, could bend any will. "All right. What Sam wants, Sam gets. Make yourself comfortable and give me a few minutes." My parents were out of town, a fact Sam seemed to know before I did. I released our staff and ran to clean up. I'd never attended prom or had a girlfriend until now. This might have been the closest thing to normal I'd experienced. If it wasn't for required company events, I wouldn't own a tux, but our staff kept it clean and pressed to prevent the inevitable excuse on my part. Music greeted me as I descended the stairs, a little stiff in the starched tuxedo. Samantha claimed the office for our two-person dance. To be honest, I had no idea what to expect, but hearing a waltz would have been my last prediction when she said dance. "I took dance class every day growing up," she explained, reading my surprise. "It was one of those extraordinary gifts of sleep. I danced while you slept for Ray. Not fair, I'm starting to realize. Let me teach you." It was the most words she'd spoken since hunting me. There was a heart here. She knew how to dance and how to lead. Placing my hand on her middle back, she positioned my other hand in hers, lifted her elbows to make it clear I would not be slouching, and began to flow. I had a new vision of that alluring face held in pride. Perhaps it came from her dance rather than from disdain. We glided with her driving. When I apologized for clumsiness, she dismissed it without slowing. "Just dance, John. No need to talk." I wanted to hold her forever. As the movements became more natural, she closed the distance between us, the actions more fluid and synchronized. I held her tight in perfect ecstasy as song after song kept us moving. Finally, she stopped the music and looked in my eyes before she moved in for a kiss. My hate for this office would never come back. "Good night, my dear." Sam reached for her purse and slipped in the speaker as if she could just vanish on my last night without a word. I had to broach the inevitable. The affection was fantastic, but reality required dialogue. "Sam, we leave tomorrow." I fished for a response. I reached for her and pulled her back into our dancing distance. "I know. He told me." "Then you know it's time we decide what this means. Why you are here at my house each night and not with Ray. He will find out, eventually." I didn't intend to say these words, but they seemed like sufficient conversation starters. "Everything will work out." Such confidence.
Forget these questions. Forget the logistics. We had a nice night, and I will see you again at Christmas.
Samantha was clearly avoiding the unspoken nature of our relationship. I spelled it out to prevent any delusions. She reciprocated the embrace, even if her words dodged me.
Sam, you're going to have to choose. At some point, you will be forced to make the decision. Stop, John, she interjected. Be happy with me here and now.
Her right hand rose and pressed against my lips, a cork against the unwanted bottle of truth. Her avoidance was frustrating, and I chose to persist. No, Samantha, we have to say it now. Ray has everything you want: wealth and power, kindness and servitude, stability and fidelity. He will be the perfect husband if you want it. But I have what you need. Someday you'll have to decide. You will have to choose. You can't claim us both indefinitely. She answered in quiet but firm tones.
John, I don't want to discuss it now. You may be mostly right, most of the time, but you do not know everything.
I now held the hand that had failed to stop my words. I wanted to hold on to this wonder forever. I know enough. I know that you mean to own me like you own Ray. When the time is right, you will claim one of us, discarding the other, or you'll flee from us both. You know me dangerously better than anyone else. You came to me to get to Ray. You came to me justifying that you must keep me away. But deep down you came to me because you knew me and saw a kindred soul. I pierced the truth, and she took it nobly. Sam couldn't deny the predicament. We both meant to control Ray. Our triangle was fated to espouse enmity. We chose passion over petty destruction, but growing closer only made it all the more difficult to dissect ourselves from the issue. We were partners because we had no choice. Blowing the whistle would ruin us both. Samantha nodded with understanding and broke our connection. She blessed me silently with a final farewell kiss before making to exit.
I'll see you in December, John. Do not lose in thought what could be yours by action.
Strange words from this beautiful prophetess. I walked into Dr. Santos's office, only half hoping to avoid the subject of Samantha Carlyle. Summer vacation imbued me with new life and emotion, but now was the season to work.
Welcome back. You looked well. Vacation was rejuvenating? Asked Dr. Santos as I knocked quietly and found my seat.
Especially so, I replied, realizing too late that I had betrayed my thoughts with this abnormal temperament.
Really? He questioned, raising his eyebrow to exaggerate interest.
Yes, it was a real break. No sleep machine, no studies.
Did you find time to still read the selected works of Roman history I loaned you?
Of course. My confidence would hopefully redirect the conversation. Those few weeks a year are when I find time to indulge myself in pleasure reading, writing, and painting. There's never a dull moment.
Excellent, replied Dr. Santos. What did you think of the connection between Spartan and Roman slaves and the American Civil War?
It was never enough to just read Dr. Santos's assignments. I had to come prepared with intelligent feedback. A state embroiled in slavery is in a metastable condition. It cannot be in true equilibrium. It may last a few years or a few hundred years, but ultimately the imbalance will conquer. Dr. Santos nodded in agreement, recognizing the obvious parallel to today. He let me feel the silence of my response. My eyes wandered to his new and very bright bow tie.
I wrote some thoughts down if you're interested.
I was moments away from avoiding an interview. He kindly shook his head.
Most of those journal entries are for you.
Apparently ready to change subjects, his eyelids relaxed, and he asked,
So, what really explains the distracted smile?
Nothing more, I defended. Fooling him was pointless. He persisted.
I've seen you return after 4 such holidays. Not once have you appeared as you do now, in some ethereal resplendence.
His eyes closed completely. It was over. The wizard knew.
You met a girl.
To deny was to guarantee detection. If I could not distract, I would have to navigate wisely.
Okay, you got me. You sense everything, always. Am I so easy to read, or are you just that impressive?
I'm skilled, John. Now tell me more. My flattery had not distracted him. There was one thing Dr. Santos loved more than sleep science: a good love story. Though uncharacteristic for most professors, Such a fascination was only a manifestation of his love for his students. He thrived on their happiness and progression. A girl for me was a great hope. The hot seat boiled, and I proceeded cautiously at first, sowing doubt with every word. I didn't need Dr. Santos interrogating me about women in our weekly meetings. He may have known that I was hiding something, but he couldn't tell everything. I did meet someone very special. But you can't ask about her again, I added emphatically. I'm not sure where our relationship will lead, nor am I convinced I will ever see her again. Until such a change, for better or worse, I prefer to minimize the publicity. Our conversations are always private, John. Now, tell me more of this girl. He leaned forward, eyes open. Whether I realized it or not, I was desperate to talk to someone. The floodgates opened unplanned, and I sounded more like Ray than myself. She's fantastic. She is a destroyer of man, Calypso and Charybdis. Perfection in tangible form. I shook my head, suddenly speechless after this burst of unexpected truth, but he waited for me to continue. Words are inadequate for her. She exudes loathing and demands obeisance. We are terrible together, and worse apart. There is a magnetic attraction between us. The same magnet could unexpectedly reverse polarity. What will happen? I cannot even speculate. I rambled for some time more, describing this remarkable woman. Clearly, I yearned to tell someone about the force I was experiencing. I'd even talked with my hands, something I found so ridiculous in others. When I finished, Dr. Santos commenced his analysis. Interesting choice of words, John. She sounds amazing, yet you have told me nothing of her. She is fantastic and terrible, but somehow you have left me clueless. You have described the vacuous paragon, empty of substance, and, paradoxically, complete in everything. He gave me no time to respond. You must know that Ray met someone as well. He told me about her this morning. Quite a woman he described. My stomach plunged. I could neither flinch nor look away without flagging guilt or deceit. Dr. Santos was indefatigable in the detection of truth. I met his subtle inquisition head-on. I met her too. Ray is very fortunate. He may have found the right one this time. Yes, he had only flowery words for this new love. She appears to adore him. He could describe every physical attribute, her upbringing, their star-crossed childhood, even some cookie prophecy. Ray is absolutely smitten for this Samantha. Yes, he is. Well, I better run to the lab, Dr. Santos. I wanted to escape as fast as possible. Dr. Santos did not move. I'd never seen his eyes stay open this long, totally locked on mine. He remained seated as a judge. Are you in love with the same woman? You have described someone completely different, yet through your eyes versus Ray's, I can imagine the same beauty. Do not lie to me, John. You are only lying to yourself. This is a foolish, unmanly road. I swallowed hard, unable to resist the urge to lie again. Despite the guilt, the words came easy. I had lied to my parents about Carl Schleife and my quest for so many years. I could lie about Samantha. No, Dr. Santos, I am most certainly not dating Ray's Samantha. Are they both beautiful? Yes. But my girl is very different than the one in love with Ray. This was both the truth and a shameful lie. I excused myself quickly and fled to work, almost tripping as I hurried down the polished hallway. I had to stay away from my mentor for some time, afraid the full story was glaringly obvious and disappointing. Chapter 18, History Lessons. If the SSC had falsified Dr. Santos's studies on Sleep for Sleepers, how many more foundation stones were just lies? Which truth, when plucked out, would cause the whole edifice to crumble? Since learning from the wizard about the Senate Sleep Committee's treachery, I had stolen away precious specks of time to study senatorial proceedings. Lucius had been clear. Do not believe blindly any SSC publication, especially during the Blair reign. Dr. Santos could not outright list every tampered publication. In fact, he probably knew very few, but knowing they existed gave me the key to finding them. I just had to look where there were holes that should have been plugged, and identify statements that did not seem quite right. I left my initial search up to machine learning. My AI's speech recognition software handled the data analytics and flagged anomalies. Locked away in my single dorm room, I fed the software confirmed samples from Desmond's publications and speeches, thus allowing it to learn how Desmond postulated thoughts, what idioms and words he used, and what couldn't possibly come from him. Repeating the process, I uploaded official sleep-free documentation from the era in case the company spokesperson did the talking. Then I let the engine do its job on SSC transcripts. Among the rubbish blazed this glistening gem. Quote, "The ability to borrow sleep components from multiple parties will incur great physical and mental detriment. The mind requires new dreams to stay healthy and alive. Utilizing a single dream and REM cycle repeatedly undermines the natural function of the mind and can result in retardation and psychosis. The original sleeper solution, new single-source chemical, REM, and brainwaves, guarantees a healthy mind with full mental refresh and no deleterious side effects. Based on the severe risk, it is the recommendation of this research body that client sleepers continue to engage in full interchange of all three necessary sleep components and thus secure the health of all clients." End quote. The strange history of mixed sleep sourcing suddenly started to unravel. The language seemed technical, enough to fool most. However, the software had flagged the poor cadence and word choice match against any Desmond Matson or sleep-free publication style of the era. He would never have been so certain. Each sentence would have included doubt so that he might one day reverse his position. It was as if a scientist drafted the seedling document and a politician scribbled over the truth to scare the public. Sure wouldn't be the first time. I had wrongly thought Desmond and the SSC simply did not know or believe in heterogeneous borrowed sleep, but he was far too smart for such failure. If the hearings were fabricated, Desmond must have known and someone wanted to hide it. Perhaps the SSC had jammed the conclusion down Desmond's throat, writing the opposite of truth. I programmed the software to check the language next against Senator Blair's writing samples. A near-perfect match. Her verbal speech was deceptively simple and Nebraskan, but in writing, her methodical genius shined, and she couldn't resist some political tripe to finish off her lie. But why discourage shared patterns in chemical? Why stop everyone from mixing sources? I didn't need Lucius Santos to tell me the reason. Truth glared at me with fiery eyes. Sleep-free technology offered infinite peace and mass control. One half happily lived with no personal dream as motivation. The other half was too busy sleeping to be burdensome. Mass control required full dependency, unbreakable bonds for both sleeper and client. If clients could acquire the chemical from any source and stick to their favorite dreams, there would be no dependency on personal sleepers. There would be no imperative employment for the bottom half, no sedation, and the government, through taxes, would have to foot the entire social bill subsidized by clients. If clients relied on a sleeper for all three components, if they grew accustomed to a single sleeper, they would hold to that sleeper until death or old age tore them apart. Client and sleeper could then be equally ensnared and numb, symbiotic prisoners of progress. So the SSC must have taken Desmond's findings, recrafted the results, and trumped up deceptive conclusions. Thanks to Carl and my dad, I already knew mixed sourcing was not damaging. Entrepreneurs later debunked Senator Blair's apparent propaganda. She couldn't control everyone. But the myth had become truth. The pedantic supposition, disguised as actual research, sedated that early sleeping American era. Small startups offering mixed sleep went out of business. Those clients who attempted to mix dreams in brave ways found they missed the familiarity of their personal sleeper. It was too late for real change. Dependency had blossomed, and society required their personal sleepers as they would a drug. The addiction worked as the SSC predicted. Senator Blair had won. As sleep continued to spread globally, nations adopted the same lie as America, finding mass sedation more convenient than truth.